Can you see my sock? It's 8:30. I was actually supposed to already film this 2 hours ago, but I decided to sing and dance around in my living room for the past 2 hours, which is why my voice sounds like this. But it's okay. We're filming it now. Let's do this. We're going to be talking about all the books that I read last year. Let me pull up my Goodreads. I think I was pretty good about logging most of the books that I read in my Goodreads. There were maybe one or two that I didn't log, but I think I actually got most of them. 24 books. There's one that I'm not going to count because it's a children's book. So let's say 24 books that I read in 2025. We're going to go in chronological order with the first book that I read that year. Some of them I still have the physical copies of. Some of them I was reading on a Kindle, and others I left them elsewhere, so I don't have the physical copies anymore. The first book that I read last year was the Kamogawa Food Detectives by Hisashi Kashiwai. I gave this 4 stars. I thought this was a really cute book, basically about, if I remember correctly, because it was already over a year ago, a father-daughter business team. The father used to be a detective, but now they own a restaurant together, and people come to them to make requests for dishes that they experienced maybe a long time ago that they don't have the recipe to, and they really cherish the memory that comes with these dishes. And basically they come to this father-daughter restaurant team, and he asks them questions about it. It takes 2 weeks to kind of track down the exact recipe somehow, and basically recreates it for them 2 weeks later. And I think there are 3 or 4 kind of stories within this book about specific dishes. It was a really sweet book. I really enjoyed that, and a very unique premise for me. Next one is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I also rated this 4 out of 5. Also really enjoyed this. This was recommended to me by a friend of mine. Lessons in Chemistry was also turned into a TV show with Brie Larson. So good. I haven't seen the show, but I did really enjoy the book, so I would highly recommend that also. The next 3 books are all books in the Thursday Murder Club series from Richard Osman, which I have here. For some reason, I also don't remember why. I read the second book in the series first. Whoa. And I actually read this in 2024, so we're not going to count this. But all 3 other ones. So the Thursday Murder Club, book number 1 in the series. Book number 3, The Bullet That Missed. And book number 4, The Last Devil to Die. I read all of these back to back last year, and I really like them. I think I rated them all 5 out of 5. And I really like Richard Osman's style. It's very, I think, what do the kids call it these days? Cozy murder or cozy crime, something like that. It's about these group of friends in a retirement home, and by some twist of events, they end up solving real life murders. The plots are really sweet. I really like the characters. It's just super fun. They did make a Netflix movie out of this as well, out of the very first book, The Thursday Murder Club, with an absolutely stacked cast. I think they had Helen Mirren, Sir Ben Kingsley, Pierce Brosnan. I didn't enjoy the movie as much as I thought I would. Still super fun, but I really enjoyed the books. These might have been one of the favorite books that I read the entire year. Okay, next book on the list is Buy Yourself the Damn Flowers from Kaur. Kaur is another YouTuber who is absolutely huge in like the productivity, glow up, go after the life that you want space. Her work ethic is off the charts, and she does so much, and I think her content is really great. She came out with a book called Buy Yourself the Damn Flowers about self-love, which I really enjoyed, and I also rated this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was White Nights by Dostoevsky. It's not a very long book. I think it's about this thick. It's kind of a short, quick read. A little bit on the depressing side. I'm glad I read it, but I didn't really love it that much. I gave it 3 stars. Now, I don't expect anybody to agree with these ratings of mine, but this is just how I found them. I just don't think I'm cultured enough to actually enjoy Dostoevsky and other classic writers, if that makes any sense. The next 3 books that I read, which I absolutely blasted through, were the first 3 books of the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas. So A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruin. I gave A Court of Thorns and Roses 3 stars. It was definitely fun, and it really made me want to read the next book and everything and just like see what happens. But I didn't love it that much, so 3 stars for that one. A Court of Mist and Fury, I absolutely loved. If you haven't read the ACOTAR series and you don't want it to be spoiled, then just like skip ahead. But for A Court of Mist and Fury, I absolutely loved the way the romance developed between Feyre and Rysand, it's just so dreamy. The yearning from that guy, it's off the charts. I loved it so much. It made me feel things. A Court of Wings and Ruin, I also really enjoyed, but not as much. So A Court of Mist and Fury, I gave it 4 stars. A Court of Wings and Ruin got 3 stars. Then we have the book Eric by Terry Pratchett. I never read Terry Pratchett that much as a kid, so I think I'm just not used to his style. For me, it's very like playful and quirky, but in a way that doesn't really work for me personally. So it was a cute book, but I don't think I would continue reading like Terry Pratchett Discworld series books. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. Next book I read was a book called Tokyo Express by Seicho Matsumoto. The Goodreads score for Tokyo Express is only 3.68, which I feel is kind of low, but I actually really enjoyed this book. I gave this 4 stars. It's basically about a detective who's investigating the death of a man and a woman, and it looks to everyone like a suicide, but he doesn't think it is, so it's just about him trying to figure out what actually happened here, if it was actually a suicide or not. And the style of this writing, I feel like it's very matter of fact. And there are some books that are a little bit more descriptive in their language, and it really makes you feel like you're in that place. Like some authors describe how the sun feels against the character's cheek and the scents that are in the air and the sounds that are around them, and it really makes you feel like you're there, but it can get a bit much for me sometimes. With this book, it was very matter of fact. There was none of that, but I actually really enjoyed that aspect of the book, so I gave that one 4 stars. Next book that I actually have still here was called How to Become a Rainmaker by Jeffrey J. Fox. I gave this 4 stars. I did generally enjoy it. It's just a nonfiction about keeping customers and clients happy. I will say like a lot of it seems to be on, manners and etiquette and how you want to treat people so that they also continue to want to do business with you. But it is always a really good reminder, so I found this a valuable book to have a read through every now and then. So I gave this 4 stars. Next book that I read is called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. He used to be the lead hostage negotiator for the FBI, which is super cool. The book is about negotiation. To be honest, I've forgotten most of the stuff that has been taught in the book because it was already a while ago, so I might need to give it a reread. But what I also like is that he uses a ton of examples and stories and anecdotes from his previous career as a hostage negotiator. So I find that really cool, very unique perspective. I gave that one 4 stars. The next book that I read was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I actually got this for Christmas last year, and it took me ages to come around to reading it. I don't even know why. I think almost everybody has heard of The Bell Jar, but I had never read it for some reason, even though it was a classic. Actually, there's lots of classics that I've never ever read. I think it's loosely based around Sylvia Plath's own life and her struggles with depression. It's not really my style of book, to be honest. To me, it's akin to those movies that are really good, but they're really stressful. So for me, this is a good book, but it made me feel quite sad and nostalgic, and I'm glad that I read it, but I don't know that I'll read it again because it is just quite sad. And I gave this 3 stars. Next book on the list is The Housemaid from Freida McFadden. I heard about this book from another YouTuber called Carla Espinoza. She reads so much. I couldn't even guess how many books this girl reads every single year because she reads all the time. If you like that content, then definitely go check her out. She reads a lot. So I heard about this book through her, bought it, read it, really enjoyed it. The Housemaid is actually also going to be turned into a movie, or it's about to come out, or has just come out. Basically about this girl who gets a job as a housemaid for a wealthy couple. There are some twists and turns in the book that I did not expect. I really enjoyed it. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Next book that I read is called We Solve Murders, also by Richard Osman. It's also very cute, cozy crime vibes, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the Thursday Murder Club series. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. Next on the list, we have One Golden Summer by Carley Fortune. The premise is also really cute. I did generally enjoy this, but not as much as I expected to. I give this 3 out of 5 stars. What I enjoyed much more was Funny Story by Emily Henry. I feel like there was a bit more emotional back and forth in Funny Story, so I really enjoyed this actually. I like, how they navigated the plot and everything. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Then this book, which was such a ride, honestly. This is called Lucky Day, and it's by Chuck Tingle, which is a pseudonym. And this was such a unique plot to me. Also, just like the cover art was so cool, which is why I looked at it in the first place, and then I saw that the reviews were really good. But this is basically about a supernatural event in the world that kills a bunch of people and has to do or is somehow connected with like the laws of probability. This woman who used to be a statistics and probability professor is super depressed because that low probability event ruined her life basically, and a top secret agent shows up and is like, hey, you need to help us figure out how to fix this low probability stuff, because apparently it wasn't just like a one-time event, like things still keep happening. Honestly, this book was such a trip, but I also really enjoyed reading this. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Then we have the book Girls That Invest by Simran Kaur. I also enjoyed this. I think it's a good, solid base for financial knowledge and learning how to invest, especially if this is something that you're new to, especially for women, because she makes it very accessible, very relatable. I enjoyed reading this. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. Next book that I read was called Apprentice to the Villain by Nicole Mährer. I actually finished this on the 31st of December 2025, so really like right at the end. I didn't realize that it was actually already the third or second book or something in a series of books, I think. So there was so much plot that I had completely missed because I didn't realize that it wasn't like the first book or a standalone book. So it took me a little bit to kind of catch up with what was going on and remember what the relationships between the characters were. That being said, I did enjoy it. It was really fun. It was also kind of quirky, which maybe personally not super for me, but I did enjoy the plot and how it went. So I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. I did not put this in my Goodreads, but I'm gonna include it anyway. This is from the Monsieur Madame book series. It's the one where they visit the Alps. I bought this over the summer right before I left France because I thought it would be really helpful to get some kids books so that I could learn reading French out loud. And it's really cute. And you know, they do illustrate every single page, but even with the illustrations, I'll be honest, I struggled a little bit to follow the plot, but I just wanted to mention that as well. A book that I reread is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. The first time that I read this, I didn't like it that much, but my second read through last year, I enjoyed it much more, and it's just like a fun, easy read. I wouldn't say it's anything groundbreaking, but it's just good to have these reminders of how to best go about your day-to-day with other people. I mean, the gist of it is basically be a kind person, be thoughtful, but with many more stories and examples. So I did really enjoy this. I would give this probably a 4 out of 5 stars. The last 2 books that I'm going to mention, and my 2 favorite books of the year, this is Women Living Deliciously by Florence Given. First of all, this book is gorgeous. Like, just look at that. And it's always like illustrated and aesthetic. It's so beautiful, and I would always kind of read a couple of pages before bed. And the fact that it's so beautifully decorated honestly makes it so much more of a vibe. Like, look, there's flowers and there's decorations on the side and everything. And I never would have thought that honestly having a pretty book interior and exterior would actually contribute so much to the experience of reading the book. Even the inside cover is like pink leopard print. How fun. But more than that, I really like the message that the book gives. And I mean, there are a lot of things in this book that are very focused on the experience of being a woman. Obviously, I will never understand what it's like to live as a man, but likewise, there are so many things about being a woman and the experience that we have in our day-to-day life that men will never understand, and that's completely fine. So there are a lot of things in this book that are very focused on our experience as women, you know, the expectations that are set upon us, the value systems that are placed upon us in a different way than it is on men. And it felt very validating to also basically be reminded constantly throughout this book that the doubts and the fears that I have about my experience as a woman are shared by so many other people. And it's very comforting in a way, but it's also a great reminder to not be held back by some of the beliefs that we picked up as children or teenagers. Overall, also the messages that come through in this book, while focused on women, can also be applicable to men. To me, essentially, it's all about how to enjoy your life more. And you do not need to be a woman to read this, but as a woman, I really, really love this. So I give this 5 out of 5 stars. The last book that I want to mention is possibly my favorite one that I've read all year. This is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. It's not that long and it can be very heavy at times. It's about this man, Viktor Frankl, who was a prisoner in Auschwitz and other concentration camps during World War II. And it talked about his experience in these concentration camps and extermination camps and how he found and kept meaning in his life even through such awful, awful conditions. It's interesting because it's like a combination of him writing about what was actually happening in the camp and kind of the day-to-day, what they experienced, as well as explaining the psychological phenomenon that occur with these prisoners, because he was a psychiatrist. That was his job, his career. Very, very interesting book. It is definitely a heavy read, but I think this is one that everyone should read. I really, really love this. Easily 5 out of 5 stars. Let me show you guys quickly the books that I have recently gotten and are in my to read next list for 2026. The one that I'm reading right now is from Yanis Varoufakis. It's called Talking to My Daughter, A Brief History of Capitalism. I am trying to learn more about geopolitics and capitalism and economy, blah, 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 and how all of that kind of ties together. I have one friend who is very smart and very well educated who highly recommended this book to me because he also kind of breaks it down in a much easier to understand way, because it is literally like he is speaking to his daughter about these topics. So I started this. It's slow going so far, but I am enjoying it. Then I also got The Diary of Anne Frank. I also am expecting this to be a heavy read, but I know that this is also a classic and I think it will be a very interesting read. So that is also on the list. I have 2 hardbacks that I found, which I thought would be really cool, but they're so heavy. The first one is Timelines of Art. This is what it looks like on the inside. It's exactly what it says. It is Timelines of Art. So here we have like the Mannerist style, and then we move on to Baroque and Neoclassicism, Romanticism, the 19th century, symbolism, and so on and so forth. I've never been an art person, but I want my knowledge base to be a little more well-rounded, so I thought that this would be a really good one to go through. In the same vein, I know nothing about engineering and the great works that exist in the world. So I got this Engineers from the Great Pyramids to Spacecraft. And then they also talk about great constructions and engineers of the world. A thing about the pioneer of the first winged aircraft flight, Thomas Savery, the inventor of the first practical steam engine. It looks like really interesting stuff, again, because I just want a little bit more general knowledge in my brain. Then the last book that I also really want to read this year, kind of a wild card, it's How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. Now, I am not planning on having kids anytime soon, but I think I heard about this book from Jen Im, and I think she spoke quite highly of it, and I saw that the reviews on this book were also really good. And I thought, you don't need to have kids to be able to apply principles from this book, for example, into your life. Like, I'm sure it would work with friends, colleagues, strangers, other family, whatever. So I picked it up anyway, and I think it could be really interesting. So that is also on the list for me to read in 2026. I would also love to know from you guys, what did you read last year? What are you planning on reading this coming year? Did you read any of the books that I mentioned in my list? Like, what did you think of those? I really, really want to know what you guys are reading or have read or will read. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this interesting or helpful, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.